we're going to go drive across the country and set a world record. I said, really? I've never taken the chance to sit down here and really go through the 2850 New York to LA record drive, but since this weekend marked the 5-year anniversary of our record, I thought it made sense to sit down and talk a little bit, not about mile by mile what it was like, it took me over 300 pages to write about that, but really what the drive and the preparation for the drive meant to me personally, because the journey didn't start at the Red Ball. It started about a decade prior to that when I was in high school, and I'd actually interviewed Brock Yates, the founder of Cannonball, for a project on automotive journalism. And I'd called him and told him about, everything that I thought about the career and learned a lot from him, but I also told him that one day I wanted to break the Cannonball record. And he was cordial, but he had kind of written in his book that he didn't think it could be done. So he just said, good luck, kid. But over the next decade, I really spent the time trying to understand what it would really take, because to me, it was more than just a compelling chapter of American automotive history. It was really this kind of challenge that I thought could be definitive with the way that I wanted to be viewed as a car enthusiast, and also kind of the ultimate expression not only of the traits and things that I wanted to learn about and improve about myself, but also the talents and gifts that I felt like I had. It was just the ultimate manifestation of being me. And the challenge of pursuing it, kind of having that beacon, that goal out in the distance, really carried me through some of the deepest and darkest parts of my life. And so as I pursued it, I kind of recognized, this really is the Super Bowl of being me. And I'm a Christian. I try to wear that on my sleeve. I don't make any apologies for it. And that's significant here because in the pursuit of this, you kind of learn a lot about what you can control and what you can't. And there's things that you think you've got a grasp on, but in order to succeed, I ended up learning about how much I had to let go of those things I thought I could control, and how many of those things that I couldn't control I really needed to go so well, and how much it would feel like somebody was out there watching over me. And I'm not trying to say that Cannonball is some righteous or holy pursuit, or that it's even okay. But what I am saying is that our God is awesome. And He's been able to use even these crazy things that I do for His glory, to open up doors and build relationships and start conversations that I can use to lead to Him. And to me, that's really what we're called to do on earth. And so as I was looking through all the things that it was going to take to do this and trying to build the network of people that I would need to help me, you talk to all your automotive enthusiast friends and they all think it's the coolest thing in the world. Oh, you want to set the Cannonball run record? Great, I love that movie. And you start to go down the path and you're like, all right, well, yeah, you'd be a great co-driver. Let's start planning it. Let's start buying these countermeasures and getting a car and prepping it and all this stuff. And they, whoa. Almost all of them pop the brakes and say, I'd love to go drive with you, but I can't spend any money on this. And really, that's what always happens. Doesn't matter if it's 2904 or C2C or just a solo pursuit like this. One person generally does all the prep work, and the rest just kind of arrive and come along for the ride. And that's okay. I mean, it's kind of a passion project for a single person. And so as I got everything prepped and I realized, all right, I got to build the car myself, I kind of got to the 11th hour, and one by one, kind of my A, B, and C team of co-driver and support passenger, they all just started backing out. And late summer of 2013, I kind of got to this point, I don't know who's going to go with me. And I don't even know how you really get someone to, because I hadn't had any success doing that. And I had gotten in the habit of about quarterly organizing these North Georgia mountain drives for my customers at the dealership. And we'd have different car enthusiasts come along. And one of my friends came in a silver Mercedes E63 wagon. And his name is Doug DeMuro. Doug was writing for Jalopnik at the time, and he lived in Atlanta, and he'd come out to our events and things like that. And we were talking before we set off on the drive, and he said, I almost didn't come this weekend because I was going to fly to New York, buy a 335 at CarMax, drive it to LA, break Alex Roy's record, return it under their 5-day return policy, and then fly home. And I was kind of aghast at this. I said, Doug, we need to have a conversation this week. So I called him Monday or Tuesday and said, I've been planning this, and he kind of had this idea that you didn't really need all the surgical precision and preparation that Alex Roy had done, and that you could just kind of go drive fast. And I kind of went through all the things that I was doing and that I had already done to my CL55, and he kind of, one by one we could see, I guess that's a good idea. That's probably handy. It's nice to have stuff like that. And so I said, well, Doug, would you like to go with me? And he paused and said, I can't ever imagine hearing myself say no to that, but at the moment I have to be covered by Jalopnik's insurance policy and get press cars and things like that, and as fast as you're talking about driving, I'm not really sure that's going to work. And also, this really is one man's passion project, and although I love what you're doing and I think you can do it, when I do it, I really want it to be for my own reasons and in my own ways, and I can certainly respect that entirely. And so I kind of continued to go down the list, And Dave Black was a friend of mine that I'd sold a couple of Lamborghinis to, including one that Balboni had put into a wall at Daytona. And he had come up to me, a couple months prior to that, and he had found the 32 hours and 7 minutes documentary of the U.S. Express and Alex Roy's pursuit of the record. And he was just amazed at it. And he had come in talking about all these ideas and stuff. And I said, well, kind of pulled him aside. I said, I'm trying to make that old news fairly soon. I'm preparing a car and I'm going to try to break that record this fall. And he immediately said, do you have a co-driver? I said, well, yes, I do. Because at that point I had several who had said, yeah, we're in, we're going. And so as everything kind of unraveled, I knew that Dave was always the crazy guy that I could probably talk into going if I needed him to. So about 30 hours before I had planned to depart for New York, I called Dave. I said, you know what? That thing we talked about, it's happening this weekend, and I do need a co-driver. Would you like to go? And he said, yes. I said, that was a little bit too fast. Like, we are talking about a lot of speeding, a lot of risk. Like, no, I'm in. He said, well, I should probably ask my wife. So he hung up, and 2 minutes later, he texted me. He said, I'm there. So I told him to come over to my house the next night, and we still needed a support passenger. And I had known Dan Wong through some car events and shows and drives and things like that. And he was kind of a friend of a friend that I'd known at Georgia Tech. And so I sent him a Facebook message and just said, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And he said, I don't know, nothing. Is there a drive or a show or something? And I said, no, we're going to go drive across the country and set a world record. He said, really? I said, yeah, come over to my house tonight. And about 18 hours before we left, he agreed to go. So they came over, kind of saw the car, and it was just kind of a surreal experience for everybody. Like, what are we about to do? So eventually we made it up to the Red Ball. And when you get there in a capable car, sufficiently prepped with a capable team, you kind of just earn the chance to pull the lever arm on the mythical Cannonball slot machine. And each wheel kind of reveals the outcome of one of these variables that you just know you can't control. The traffic, the construction, accidents, weather, animals, the car braking, police patrolling, all these things that you don't have any say in, but that could immediately derail your trip. And as we progressed through the drive, there was just kind of this mood in the car, like, can things keep going this well? I mean, we averaged 108 miles an hour across the entire state of Ohio, 110 across Indiana. I was averaging 117 across Illinois until the car asked for some oil. I mean, we made it without getting pulled over, without any real incidents, and arrived 28 hours and 50 minutes later with an average moving speed of 100.3 miles an hour. 46 minutes stopped for 3 gas stops, some roadside driver changes, and adding oil a couple of times. And everything just went as well as it could for an overall average of 98 miles an hour. And when we pulled in, having beaten this record that we thought was going to be potentially insurmountable by 2 hours and 14 minutes, it was just surreal. And you know, sometimes you have these goals, you have these passion projects, these pursuits that you chase after for so long, and then when you do it or when you get this thing, it just kind of doesn't live up to the hype. This was not that. I mean, pulling in there and just kind of standing out there in the middle of the night looking over the pier at Portofino, it was every ounce of catharsis I ever needed. I mean, this had made me push myself so hard beyond what I thought I was capable of, and been so definitive in my life that it just kind of washes over you. And it was so satisfying and such a breath of fresh air that I literally didn't even know what to do next. And I didn't write the book about it for about another year. And that timing is kind of serendipitous because my wife, who had kind of been that final pushing factor to actually get this done and not push it into the spring of 2014, had really been dying to have a kid. And we had kind of agreed that dispensing with this first goal before that one probably made sense. And we happened to get pregnant the month after I set the record. And so about a year later, I picked up my laptop and I started writing the first few words of the book. And I opened it with a dedication to my son. And I want to read that to you now. For my son Graham, the most important thing in your life is your relationship with God. The recognition of the grace that saves me from sin rather than the works or good deeds that I may do is what delivers me from eternal separation from God through the sacrifice that Jesus made to bear our sins. If I teach you only one thing in your life, I want you to understand that God loves you even more than I can. He sacrificed His own Son so that you, me, and anyone else who asks can spend eternity in paradise with Him. I would, however, like to teach you one more important thing about our lives here on earth. That awesome God that we get to serve set a stage for humanity to exist upon. It involves a constant struggle between pride and benevolence, comfort and fear, winning and losing. One of the coolest things that God ever did was build the world so that we could have great experiences, make a mark, and truly achieve something great. I want to tell you about a goal that came to define a significant portion of my life and where the journey to explore and eventually conquer that idea took me. I'm writing these first few words sitting just a few feet away from you. You're 3 days old. My hope for my son and my hope for you and our audience is really that you are able to find that cannonball. I want you to find that goal that can carry you through the most difficult moments in your life and give you something to push yourself towards and potentially end up defining the way that you're perceived in the world. Because the chance to pursue that was really the blessing for me. Not the time, not the record, not the accolade. It was what I learned about myself along the way. And my hope is that when you find the Portofino of your own cannonball, that getting there means just as much to you as it did for me. So I have no idea if it's going to work, but I'm about to go try it out on the Porsche, and I'll let you guys know how it goes.